So what is an AI winter? Well, an AI winter occurs when the public and investors lose confidence in AI and investment for AI research ends. It dries up. So AI winter, it's a serious deal. It ends university research projects, closes the doors to companies, it ends careers. There have been two major AI winter events in the past, and I think we're now approaching a third. So you might be thinking, wait, are you serious? AI is booming. And to hear many people hype AI up, you'd think that AI is about to begin the 1,000-year reign. So all the right people, all the tech entrepreneurs, the politicians, the scientists, the business gurus, the media talking heads, everybody on LinkedIn, they've all joined in a chorus, essentially heralding the arrival of the AI age, right? The TED Talks, they're out in force. Everybody on LinkedIn who wrote an email using GPT is now talking about how many years experience they have in the AI space, okay? So AI, it's hot. I'm still pretty pessimistic. So you've heard all the talk. I'm not going to give you any more examples, but the atmosphere is full of prognostications and pronouncements about AI being the next big thing or here to stay or it's the future. And the fact that all these people, most of whom really don't know anything about AI, the fact that they're all repeating the same hype, the same talking points, that should really be a warning sign. Like, seriously, what's more likely? That all these journalists and everybody on LinkedIn and all the business gurus, all the politicians, the daytime television hosts, they're all converging on this view based on a careful study of AI? That is, they've all done a responsible analysis of its potential to transform society and to make money? Or is it more likely they're just jumping on the latest bandwagon, right? How many of these people were telling us that social distancing is here to stay, right? Or that the metaverse is the future. We're all going to be living in virtual reality. I mean, how many of these people were saying that, Beyond Meat, the fake meat thing is the future, or electric vehicles, right? Look back on the track record of all these big hype incidents, right? Where everyone is kind of giving this totalizing narrative of what the future is going to be like. How many times has that actually been correct? And the thing is, there's a lot of people, they make their living riding waves of hype. I will say the tech entrepreneurs and actual computer scientists, they are different, and that they do know what's going on. But importantly, they're also selling something. And even more critically, I think we're starting to see that the public is not really buying it. And the tech entrepreneurs are starting to see this too. All right, so let's talk about AI winters, the ghost of AI winters past. People are often surprised to learn that the AI research project is really pretty old. It began in the 1950s. So the same guy who laid the theoretical foundations for the computer in 1948, Alan Turing, he was exploring the possibilities of a computer that could mimic the cognitive capacities of the human mind. So the idea of AI is as old as the computer, really. And he's the one who first speculated on how to test whether or not the mechanical mind was equal to a human, devising what we now call the Turing test. He didn't come up with the term artificial intelligence. That comes from a famous conference at Dartmouth that was held in 1956. So in 1956, computer science was still just a branch of mathematics, and mathematicians were really playing the leading role. And based on some recent theoretical breakthroughs with computers and publications in math journals and some real practical success, they became increasingly confident that computers would one day equal and even surpass the human mind. So in 1956, many of the top minds in mathematics, in economics, psychology, they gathered to discuss the possibilities of computers equaling or surpassing the human mind. Big names, Marvin Minsky, Herbert Simon, John Nash, they're all there. And this is where the term artificial intelligence emerges. I remember hearing Doug Lenat say once, Doug Lenat was a student of Minsky's, that the choice came down to either sophisticated information processing or artificial intelligence. And one name is very accurate. The other name is much better branding. So you can guess which is which. And so one of the major issues of the conference is how much work is it going to take to get computers to perform the kinds of cognitive tasks that humans routinely perform? They were emphasizing, the ability to speak. That is, they recognize there's something about human intelligence that's very closely related to language and our concepts. And they really wanted to put that front and center. This is, if you think about it, this is really what distinguishes us from animals that seem otherwise very clever, crows or chimpanzees. And Turing himself thought human intelligence could be achieved by a machine only when it could talk to other humans in a way that humans couldn't distinguish from people. So the conference had this proposal. They would give 10 researchers a few months. Just think about this. Think about their expectations. 10 researchers were charged with making significant advances towards machines performing these linguistic cognitive tasks. They wanted to get computers to the point where they could basically speak. And they thought 2 months was a reasonable time frame to complete this task, which I think in the retrospect is pretty funny. Obviously, nothing of the sort happened. The researchers never got close to simulating natural language understanding. Natural language understanding, or NLU, that has been the holy grail of AI ever since. However, computing was a new and exciting technology, and it was not difficult for different researchers to secure funding for AI research, especially from the U.S. government. So, for example, the RAND Corporation did a tremendous amount of research like this. There was AI research going on all over the U.S. in the late 50s and 60s. So again, AI is old. There were computers proving mathematical theorems, learning to play checkers and chess, and so on. And while completing these milestones might have temporarily satisfied the government and the public, it was natural language that people really needed to see in order to believe. All these mathematical tasks were they more like kind of circus acts. Like, look at what AI can do now. But after all, we are talking about computers, and so tasks that are fundamentally computation, that's not going to really impress people as much as speaking like a human. I'll skip over the technical details and just say a little bit about the approach that the researchers were taking towards language. So at the same time that computer science is kind of first coming about, Noam Chomsky, think of him in terms of linguistics, not politics. He made a significant breakthrough with his universal grammar theory. Chomsky was focusing on the structure of human language, the logical structure, and the rules of grammar. He was focusing on syntax. What are the grammar rules necessary for making meaningful sentences and expressing intelligible thoughts? This theory, it's known as transformational grammar. And it turns out computers were quite good at learning logical rules. And so an automated machine translation project got rolling, okay? And here, let me tell you that one of the best places to read about this is the book, The Myth of Artificial Intelligence by Eric J. Larson, another Psychor alum. He records the optimism of the researchers. So back then, Herbert Simon was predicting in 1965 that by 1985, machines could do anything that humans could do. And Marvin Minsky was predicting in 1967 that substantial problems of AI would all be solved in one generation. These guys are not lightweights. These are the biggest founders of AI. And so when you read Larson and how he records this history, he'll point out that the National Research Council is spending millions on AI at American universities in the 1960s, but it all comes crashing down in 1967. The methods that AI researchers were using had made basically no progress in NLU. So Larson points to a famous paper by Bar Hillel as announcing, the fundamental truth. All these statistical approaches to natural language based on grammar and syntactical rules were bound to fail. That is, much of human language can only be understood if you also have knowledge of the world. Human language always points outside of itself to the world, and some sort of implicit understanding of the world is always necessary to understand language. You got to know something about the world to understand what people are saying, and machines don't know anything. Let me give you an example. This was one of the very first examples of a common sense problem that we would learn on the Psych project. It goes like this. Bill was trying to fit the trophy into the suitcase, but it was too small. What was too small? Think about it. Write it down. If you're just parsing the sentence using the rules of grammar, I don't know why you would do that, but if you were, you'll discover that the it here is ambiguous. It could refer back to the suitcase or the trophy. In other words, the syntax alone doesn't fix the reference. In fact, if we changed one word, we could actually change the referent of it. Think about this version. Bill was trying to fit the trophy into the suitcase, but it was too large. Well, what was too large? So these two sentences, syntactically, they're identical, right? And yet the referent of it changes between them. Now think about you. You immediately knew that in the first sentence that the suitcase was the it, right? Because it was too small. And you knew in the second that trophy was the it, that was too big. And you knew this because you had common sense knowledge of the world. You understood that objects must be smaller than their containers in order to fit inside them. Well, humans, we find it very easy to answer these questions. Most AI has traditionally found it impossible to do so based on general programming. You can always hard code it. This particular pair of questions would stump just about any AI from the 60s, and most would have had trouble with it really up until about 5 years ago. The form of this puzzle has a name. It's called a Winograd. And like I said, this particular one was probably the first one that you would learn in your training on the Psych project. There's a lot we can say about this insight into the role of knowledge and AI failure, and maybe I'll say more in the future. But for now, let me just emphasize a tremendous amount of successful communication between humans relies upon shared knowledge. And this has all kinds of implications for politics, for education, even for immigration, even for male-female relationships. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. But for this post, let me just emphasize, AI lacks this shared knowledge, and so it does not understand human language. And yes, I'm talking about the LLMs. Think of your favorite LLM. I'm talking about it too. Well, once the problem of NLU was understood in the 60s, the funding for AI dried up and the first AI winter came on, and it lasted through the 70s. Why was there an AI winter? Because the researchers had raised the expectations for AI and then couldn't deliver. So remember that. This is the recipe for the AI winter storm, right? You raise expectations, right? You raise them, and then you fail to deliver. That's what gets you AI winter. Now, AI gets a new life in the 1980s, and a large part of it is the MCC project, Microelectronics Computing Technology Corporation. This is what the Psych project came out of. Actually, a lot of things came out of this. I think of it fondly because of the Psych project. The story, it's really great. I would love to tell it in its entirety, but it's too long, so I cannot explain everything. I must summarize. But basically, there was this fear that a Japanese computing project would take over computing the same way that Japanese automakers had at that time just about taken over the car industry. And so Congress, passed a bill essentially to suspend antitrust laws so that computer research could happen collaboratively in Austin, of all places. Well, the AI that emerged took an axiomatic approach. It was a logical approach. It was a deductive approach. You'll often hear this referred to as expert systems or good old-fashioned AI. There's some issues with that terminology, but that would basically describe what was hot in the 80s. And the idea is here, we're going to fill the computer with common sense knowledge by identifying the axioms of common sense. So this is what I did. This is what I did for a number of years. They would hire philosophers with a background in logic. And what we would do is we would try to kind of distill the logical structure of common sense, articulate that in terms of axioms, and then try to write logical rules to help the AI, draw the right inferences. Okay. Well, it turns out most of these expert systems projects, most of this classical AI, these systems didn't work well. They were very brittle. Somehow the psych project survived into the 2010s. That's when I joined. And so another AI winter began in the 90s. This AI winter lasted well into the 2000s. And it was only with the emergence of social media that AI started to come back online. And the thing is here, the internet, but particularly social media, supplied enough data of human-generated text that a statistical or probabilistic approach to AI, specifically to natural language, could be taken. So we're still riding this AI boom today, but I'm telling you, I think the clouds are gathering. I think another AI winter may be approaching. So remember the recipe for an AI winter. The fundamental recipe is the AI people raise expectations and then they can't deliver. Well, I see three signs. One, the public is sick of AI slop. Two, the public is turning against data centers. And three, AI don't make any money. Okay, so let's walk through these real quickly. Look at how AI is actually being used and how the public perceives it. It's fine, to tell me about how you're vibe coding all these things with Claude, but if I never see that, if I never see the awesome programs that you're creating, most of what I see from AI is the kind of slop on the internet. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to avoid AI garbage on YouTube and on X. I think YouTube is taking some steps to try to get rid of the slop. But man, last year it was bad. You would see a video that initially looked interesting. You click on it and rapidly reveals itself to just be AI generated and just junk. And the funny thing was, it's like the ability to generate something realistic looking with zero effort just somehow, sucks the creativity out of you. It seems like creativity maybe benefits from having to work or think through things, to work hard. Maybe not just any idea that pops into your head is worth creating something out of. Worse, I think this is worse. More and more AI-generated text is coming up in search engine results. I noticed this especially with informational articles related to like medicine and health, nutrition, where I'm trying to get my bro science and I just keep running into AI slop, right? And so maybe AI has already taken over that corner of the internet. But it takes a little bit of reading and you get that kind of that tingle. It's like a tingle up your spine, that uncanny feeling. Oh, damn, it's a computer, right? This isn't real. And AI generated text manages to have this distinctively soulless and empty feel to it. It reminds me of the kind of existential despair I got when my mom, there'd be like a big sale, like on New Year's or Black Friday. It's like my mom would drag me around Kmart or something. I'm just wilting under the fluorescent lights of doom. I'm wondering, like, how did I get here? And yeah, when I read AI generated text, it brings me back to that childhood memory. Okay, so thank you, ChatGPT. Thank you. But seriously, think about you. Think about yourself. When you discover that the article you've been reading is AI, how does it make you feel? I've never known anyone who is happy to learn they've been reading AI. I don't know anybody who's reading something and is like, oh, God, it's AI. Wow. I've never seen that. Usually, most of us, we groan. We're like, oh, my God. And you look for something written by a human. Unless you're specifically asking for it, I'll use Grok or GPT, kind of like a search engine. Unless you're specifically asking for AI, when you read something and you discover it's AI, usually you feel like you've been had. Like you feel like you've been tricked. And the negative feeling, it goes the other way too. The people who use AI to compose things. So like my college students, I remember asking them last semester, man, they all admitted to using AI to write papers, but only in other courses, never in mine. And they're not proud of it, right? Gen Z does not play any of this, LinkedIn BS game where you pretend that you're doing something cutting edge by outsourcing your email writing to AI. They're not kidding themselves. They know they're taking a shortcut and they're getting away with something. And think about it. There's very few situations where you'd ever actually put forth a piece of AI writing as anything but your own. So it seems almost inherently dishonest. I mean, like, what does it even mean to say, I wrote this using ChatGPT? The second I hear that it was written by GPT, I lose all interest in reading it. I might be interested in reading something written by you, but GPT, forget about it. So what does a student achieve by writing a paper with AI or even a journalist? Would you want to sit and listen to an AI-generated sermon? No, I don't think anyone would. So it's not an accident that while using AI to generate text makes you feel a little guilty and that you feel like you've been cheated when you read something that's AI-generated text. So here's my point. That visceral negative reaction that I feel and so many other people feel in response to AI-generated text, that's not a good sign. That ain't a good sign for the future of AI. AI slop is leaving the public with a lot of negative impressions. All right, 2, the public is turning against data centers. Not only is the public not impressed with the product, the public is absolutely horrified by the cost of AI. So the LLMs like GPT, they run on legions of NVIDIA GPUs, millions. I don't just mean for the training. I mean every time you run a query, you're using tens of thousands of GPUs. Okay, when you are using tens of thousands of GPUs, you are using an incredible amount of electricity. I mean, it's so bad that Sam Altman was telling people not to be polite when querying. Like, don't say please and thank you because like that costs money. So one, keep in mind, nobody is paying the true price of AI compute, right? The cost of that query, you are not paying and you wouldn't pay. But as data centers go up all over the country, look, they're gobbling up electricity. They're putting enormous demands on the electricity supply. Goldman Sachs has estimated that the increased usage from AI alone is going to require hundreds of billions of dollars to upgrade the grid. Well, how are we going to supply this electricity? I personally have no qualms about nuclear power, but try building a new nuclear power plant in the U.S. I think there's been like 1 or 2 in the last 40 years. With green energy, I mean, do you want to see more of the countryside covered in turbines and covered in solar panels? Is that really what you want? And we're also now competing, like now American households are competing with data centers for electricity, at least in terms of the price. So the same people, it's funny to me that the very people who gush about AI often tend to be the same people who are kind of against fossil fuels. And maybe some of them are starting to change their tune, right? And so I am seeing signs that people are taking the environmental impact seriously. Now, look, we can always find, more ways to produce electricity, but what about water? So data centers, they use an incredible amount of water. They use the water evaporatively to cool down the chips through evaporation. But unlike your radiator, it's not a closed loop. It's more like the misters, at like Disneyland or something. So water is lost every time, so it's constantly having to be replaced. Data centers consume a lot of water, We're talking several million gallons of water a day. So a data center uses as much water as a small city. Well, ask yourself, where are they going to find millions of gallons of water a day? And the answer is from municipal water supplies. So they want to move in next to you to get access to your municipal water supply, and then they're going to be competing with you for that water. As data centers move to town, it becomes clear to the public they make poor neighbors. Nobody is happy when a data center comes to town. One, they don't bring jobs. Give me a break. I mean, like they might bring like 15 jobs, and then those are all going to be out of town hires anyway. Okay, so come on. They use an incredible amount of electricity, and they compete with humans for water. So there are cities already having trouble maintaining water pressure for their human customers because it's being drunk by thirsty machines. Okay, think about that. We now have machines competing with humans for drinking water, in essence. All right, so look, the electricity and water costs associated with the AI data centers, it is substantial, and the public is just now being exposed to them, and I think this is just the beginning. So far, AI has been offered to the public mostly for free. There are subscription plans, but they do not come close to recovering the cost of operating the data centers. At the point that people have to start actually paying for the cost of AI, I think they're going to become very dissatisfied. And that brings me to the third problem. No profits. You can make all these complaints about slop and the environment or whatever, but the people who are all on board, with this current trend, they're going to be like, look, none of that stuff matters because this is business. This is about money and profits. We're here to transform the economy, transform business. AI is here to stay because it's going to do that. Really? So far, there's been no profit. Like OpenAI just bleeds money. So OpenAI, the company behind GPT, they bleed tens of billions of dollars a year in net losses. They've never made a profit. They operate entirely off of investments that have yet to provide any return. And basically, no one pays for GPT. Okay? Ask yourself if the high schoolers cheating on their homework are going to pay the cost of compute. The answer is no. Now, if you're interested in this, I think the place to go, look at the stuff written by Ed Zitron. I don't think anyone has pursued this more than he has. He's got several little articles on his website he's written. He's also given a lot of interviews that you can find. But one of the things that he's going to emphasize is that normally in the tech world, as companies scale up and get more customers, they become more profitable. But it's going to be the exact opposite with AI because as they scale up, every query costs money. All right. So that means the amount of computing power that they have to build to be able to handle tons of queries is going to cost not just money to build, but it's going to cost electricity every time someone uses it. So this is a strange business model where you scale up, it costs more money. So check out Zitron. He goes into detail explaining why they're losing money. And it really has to do with the nature of the AI itself. It's just the electricity it takes to return your queries is just too expensive. And when companies are exposed to the real cost of inference, they're probably not going to pay it. The way I think of it is for, the cost of a few pizzas, you can fuel some recent college grads to do far better, I think, cognitive work, far cheaper. I think this is still true. Now, let me tie this back to the AI winters. Here's the thing. AI cannot reason like a human. It can only simulate it. These are probabilistic models. They are mimicking human reasoning. And so, yes, the text that LLMs produce, it looks like the product of human reasoning, but it's not. It's just AI doing these massive calculations to predict what words come next. It reminds me of something Doug Linnett once said in a company meeting. He said, which is more intelligent, to memorize the solutions to 1 billion addition problems or to actually learn to add? If you see what these LLMs are doing, they are essentially memorizing all the human text on the internet. That's, in effect, what we're seeing. And because this is not actual intelligence, because this is merely token prediction, because it's merely simulating human reasoning, it is incredibly expensive. So we are not yet at the level of the public. We are not yet paying for the cost of this simulation. But I think once we actually do pay for it, we will be precisely in that position of having high expectations for AI and seeing that no, they don't meet the expectations at all. And when that happens, I think we'll see a third AI winter. Is it going to be this year? I don't know. It could be. I don't expect for OpenAI or even Anthropic to still be with us, 5 years from now. This year, I do think we're starting to see the tide turn, where people are realizing the LLMs are not what they're cracked up to be, and they're expensive. So I think we're starting to see the first rumblings of the AI winter here in 2026. All right, well, thank you for checking out this video. If you're interested in these kinds of explorations, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.